once again, back once again, back once again, back once again, back once again with a beat. Let the bass kick.
This is the Wisdom in All Things podcast. I'm Scott. It's a journey that is designed to help you integrate wisdom into all areas of life. This episode, how to really leverage the 5-hour rule. Are you aware of the 5-hour phenomenon? Michael Simmons is the co-founder of Impact, and he said this: over the past year, I've explored the personal histories of many wildly admired business leaders, including Elon Musk, Oprah, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg. Despite being extremely busy, they have set aside at least 1 hour a day, 5 hours a week over their entire career for activities that could be classified as deliberate practice or learning. I call this phenomenon the 5-hour rule. I like to think of it as logging some lab time. Of course, the focus isn't the celebrity, but the daily discipline is what he's getting at. Where it will lead is for God to determine. But the fact that this rule has been played out in significant ways in these people's lives warrants some further investigation and quite possibly a fair amount of integration into our own lives. In the past, we've highlighted the implications of becoming a morning person and the role that being a learner plays. You can see those articles at wisdominallthings.com. So this idea of deliberate practice or learning throughout the week aligns really nicely with those articles. It might be best understood in the context of a lab, where you move from concept to experimentation. So in practice, it isn't just reading or planning, but includes trying and applying. This 5-hour rule could be considered a reductionist view of the more profound concept put forth by Cal Newport and detailed in his book, Deep Work. For me, it was a fascinating look into the subject of mastery. Newport explains how it enables you to quickly and deliberately learn complicated new skills and produce high-value output at a high rate. I mean, who wouldn't want that? What does it take to master a particular skill or knowledge but the extended, intensive, immersive exercise of deep focus? Therefore, it favors the person that can achieve lengthy, concentrated focus, which can have significant impact. Cal emphasizes that deep work is becoming increasingly valuable at the same time that it is becoming increasingly rare. Therefore, if you cultivate this skill, you'll thrive. Though the benefits outweigh the costs, one major challenge with being able to apply the concept of deep work is the large block of time it demands and the effort it takes to protect it. Newport recommends extended hours or even days of uninterrupted focus. Now, not many of us have that kind of flexibility. Enter the 5-hour rule. You could loosely define it as a normal person's application of deep work. So let's leverage the 5-hour rule as it relates to becoming wiser. I first want to briefly unpack the 5-hour rule. The greatest benefit from this daily practice requires the right pursuit. With that in mind, I wanted to offer an outline of how you could begin or further the deliberate practice or learning of wisdom. I feel that there's no greater purpose than to know what we need to know and do what we need to do. This is explained further in the Right Life Manifesto at wisdominallthings.com. During his research, Michael Simmons observed 3 activities that he then used to develop the rule: reading, reflection, and experimentation. And just for the record, he should have came up with another word that started with R. You know, the rule of threes, they all start with R. Anyway, this process is especially beneficial as it takes us through to application and thorough integration. So first, read. Simmons cites that daily activity among the billionaire entrepreneurs he researched as lasting anywhere from 1 to 3 hours a day. The main principle here is that we are ingesting something worthwhile each day for a significant amount of time. Your best bet is not to time yourself, but give yourself a window to allow yourself the room to sift through a complete thought, whether a chapter or a section of a book, that kind of thing. So that's read. Reflect. AOL CEO Tim Armstrong makes his senior team spend 4 hours per week just thinking. Jack Dorsey is a serial wanderer. LinkedIn CEO Jeff Weiner schedules 2 hours of thinking per day. Brian Scudamore, the founder of the $250 million company O2E Brands, spends 10 hours a week just thinking. Man, that's a lot of reflecting. So what can that look like? Simmons referred to some who will contact a friend or mentor to help them think through an idea. Others will take to journaling through what they read and what it caused them to think. I need this part of the process to capture the ground I've gained. Otherwise, I run the risk of forgetting and having to start over. Besides, what's the real benefit of reading or taking something in if it is not fully absorbed? And then experiment. Michael describes Ben Franklin, who throughout his life would set aside time for experimentation, masterminding with like-minded individuals, and tracking his virtues. Google has famously allowed employees to experiment with new projects during 20% of their work time. Facebook encourages experimentation through hackathons. This is where things get real during this experiment stage. Reading and thinking about it, although necessary, really won't get us very far. It's this last step where we need to work it out, where what we've been focusing on becomes clear to us, more certain, and we're able to wield it fruitfully. So those are the 3 activities around the 5-hour rule: reading, reflection, and experimentation. Now let's apply the 5-hour rule to wisdom. With there being so many things you might want to use this process to pursue, may I suggest a good starting place? Regardless of what you might choose, I highly recommend steps 1 and 2 that we're about to talk about. Step 3 is key because it has the potential to be absolutely life-changing. First, begin by implementing the 5-hour rule. Determine your daily window for what you'll be ingesting. Give yourself enough time that you're not feeling like you have to watch the clock, but that you can get through or cover a topic. Secondly, in the first 2 weeks, read Deep Work by Cal Newport. This will help fully sell you on the idea of establishing distraction-free focus and the benefit of being able to quickly and deliberately learn complicated new skills and produce high-value output at a high rate. That's key. That's 1 and 2. 3, use the schedule you've adopted for the 5-hour rule and the concept of deep work and focus it on the understanding and practice of wisdom. Here are several ideas to consider to help you get going. Begin your deep dive into wisdom by reading a section of Proverbs a week and dissecting it. Or create a list of key quotes from Proverbs and memorize them. Third idea, read pages 1 through 9 of the paper Practical Wisdom and Organizations. It's based on the book Practical Wisdom by Barry Schwartz and Kenneth Sharp. In it, they establish a solid framework for the background and context for reviving practical wisdom. Again, that paper is Practical Wisdom and Organizations. Just the first 9 pages. Another idea, assume that wisdom is essentially doing the right thing, the right way, at the right time. Use this as a checklist for areas or relationships in your life where you'd like to see wisdom improve. What do you need to start doing? What do you need to stop doing? In what way should they be started or stopped? When is the right time for this to occur? God loves answering these questions, by the way. Another idea, a part of an accurate definition of wisdom includes doing. How can you take the outcomes from applying the 5-hour rule and pass it on? Last idea, establish the habit of wisdom as the basis for the way that you approach life. That is the habit of wisdom. Garmin, for their GPS smartwatch, had an ad campaign that uses the phrase, beat yesterday. As it is with so many talented athletes, it isn't that they practice, but how they practice. Intentional, deliberate, performance-based practice leads to real growth and effectiveness. You're realizing your greatest potential when you demand that you be better than you were yesterday. Use the 5-hour rule to create the space and process which will help you pursue and exercise wisdom in all things. Be sure to spread their wisdom around, by the way. It's wise to share. Tell a friend about the podcast or send them over to wisdominallthings.com. Thanks for listening.